Me. It's good to be back. Thanks to Bonnie, Northeast. It's always good to be here and seeing a lot of the folks that taught me how to write are here in this room, a couple of them. So if I screw up, it's their fault. Neil was actually my first writing teacher at Ailfers as well. So I'm just going to read from the new book because I'm just starting going out on this tour, going to a bunch of different places. So you're hearing this for the first time too. This is called Ready Action. I'm standing in line at the mega pharmacy waiting to buy drugs. I know I don't like this place either, but it's handy and cheap. Standing in the slow line, I can't keep my eyes off the prophylactic section. Two young guys with bottles of 5-Hour Energy shrug shoulders and laugh. Turn to look at who might be staring at them, joke louder, turn back to the KY and rows of Trojans and lifestyles while they fondle the Astroglide. Don't be such a numbnut, one says to the other, as they snicker and turn the cart down the aisle. Soon enough, they're back, intent this time on grabbing the right product. Then off they go, bearing their goods in a large, half-empty cart that in a couple of years they will fill with formula, baby wipes, diapers, Aquaphor, healing ointment, disinfectant wipes, lead paint test kits, hand sanitizers, lots of sugar-free juice, Binkies, tearless shampoo, a pack and play, a bouncy seat, pregnancy tests, colored condoms, acid reducers, Band-Aids, Ativan, peroxide, and tonic. The cart will all overflow. That will only be the beginning. Today, though, none of that stuff matters. They race for the only male checkout clerk who, God willing, will let them pass through with hard-earned cash without asking for their IDs, or if they need to speak with the pharmacist about practical application, correct procedures, or any other instruction they've never wanted or been given. I have a lot of product placement in this new book. No, I didn't get permission from Reese's to use this logo. Everybody asked me that. My friend Brett Gottschall, go to Gotti.com. He painted that, and he did get permission from whoever he needed to get permission from. And he's got a lot of really cool stuff there, so check that out when you get some time. This is called Composition 103, No Shoes Required. And I'm assuming some of you might be in a composition class here. And it starts with an epigraph by Ted Kooser. It says, "The green shell of his backpack makes him lean into wave after wave of responsibility. My students, most of whom have never bought a book on their own, lean eagerly on chairs towards the screen, their eyes showing all their white. They like DVDs more than books, more than poems. One says, I can relate. I'm so totally more focused than when I read. One student is shoeless, toes curled under. I imagine him hanging upside down, sleeping in a tree. A young woman in class is wearing her Victoria's Secret I Love Pink pajama bottoms and cougar print slippers. She looks cold, her hoodie pulled tight around her head. The damn near scuffless cowboy boots in class are tied, and the cowboy has a holster for his iPhone, thumbs slowly evolving into fingers as he texts his horseless way into this victorious sunset. The only thing missing are a pink dress shirt tucked into jeans pulled up too high, the belt buckle big and bronze. There's a G-string arriving late, bending now in front of the class to pick up whatever it is she's dropped. There's always a G-string, the batting of eyelashes, and what am I if I don't look? I preach immersion, teach show, don't tell. Write what you know well. A student in front of the class keeps raising his hand. I pause the video. Are we supposed to be taking notes on this? I'm originally from Nebraska. I'll share a couple of those poems with you at the end here. And I still struggle to say that I'm from South Dakota. but I am. Which is fine. There's not a lot of difference. I beat around Northeast Nebraska for a long time. But this is about my town, my small city where I live. This is called As Hot as a $2 Hooker at a Clown's Convention. At the head of the line, buying a 12er of Pabst, a hairy, overweight man with a plumber crack and t-shirt 2 sizes too small drops a quarter on the ground. He hesitates. He'll have to brace himself against the counter and bend at the waist to pick up the coin. He adjusts his pants. He hasn't yet seen who's behind him, just a pair of pink sandals. The cross-dresser in the sandals has on a V-neck blouse and cut-off jeans. He's in his early 20s, buying a 6-pack of Smirnoff Raspberry Burst. This is South Dakota. Did I mention that? Moccasins and flip-flops are still okay here, but pink sandals have been banned in the state. Time stands still as both men stare at the quarter. Then the big guy braces himself and goes down. One hand on the counter, one hand going for the coin. "Excuse me, ma'am," he says as he comes erect. Then their eyes meet and he comes unglued. "Oh, for Christ's sake," he says, "I should have known." I've got some poems in here about spending some time at the gym on a treadmill. This is called "Feels So Good to Be So Fat," which was on a t-shirt by a band called Fat Bertha and the Love Shakers. That was my favorite t-shirt. Anyway, I'm increasing my total strides on the elliptical machine at the Wellness and Fitness Center, feeling adequate next to the large man moving ever so slowly and uneasily on the stationary bike next to me. And I'm in control of the remote for once, watching Man vs. Food. "Is this show really necessary?" the large man barks at me. "Give me that remote." I turn up the volume and reassure him that it is necessary, that if the host can consume the Italian challenge, 7 pounds of chicken parmesan, Italian sausage, lasagna, spaghetti and meatballs, manicotti, a whole loaf of garlic bread, fresh salad, cannoli, a cup of Italian wedding soup, and an apple crisp dessert in under 90 minutes, he wins a t-shirt. Only been done 2 times, I add, ever. Increasing my resistance, I watch my smart rate, heart rate, peak high. Oh, I've got to do this. All right, so I'm at the gym. I like messing around when I'm there instead of working out. And so this is called 50 Shades of Grey. I was on the same treadmill, I believe. The woman next to me on the treadmill is reading her new Kindle, and the text has been enlarged. I look over and try to figure out what has her so engrossed. I read, "Does this mean you're going to make love to me tonight, Christian?" Holy shit, did I just read that? His mouth drops open slightly, but he recovers quickly. "No, Anastasia, it doesn't. Firstly, I don't make love. I lose my footing. That's a good part. And thirdly, you don't know what you're in for. You could still run for the hills. Come, I want to show you my playroom." She sees me glancing at her tablet. She turns a bit red in the face. "Good book?" I ask. "Oh yes, a friend of mine just bought me this. Easy on the eyes." "I bet." She continues her cardiovascular workout, moving a bit faster now. "Don't tell anyone, but I downloaded 50 Shades of Grey, the first of a trilogy. I've been going at it for 3 weeks now. I'm a slow reader." That was true. That's all true. That's the unfortunate part of me. Everything's true. Pretty much. This is called Black Words on White Paper. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm grading freshman essays. Too many papers about exhaustive road trips without hitchhikers, anorexia, Nebraska football games, the death penalty, abortions. One about the future farmers of America. You don't have to grow up in the country to be a member. I never knew that. Most essays about families say they are dysfunctional. They always are. But sometimes it still scares me what students reveal, like when Carlos writes, "That night when my father pointed his hunting rifle at my head and said he was going to put a bullet between my eyes, I knew I had to say something. That's the first time I used my voice to make a difference." The phone rings and it's Willow. "Dad," she says, her voice shaky and exhilarated, "can I get my ears pierced?" At that moment, she could have asked for a pony, and I'd probably have given it to her. How exciting it is to hear a child's anticipation, the delight instead of darkness. Interesting. So where was I? I was in Iowa, in Akron, Iowa, and this lady said, I like that poem, but you can't read it, so I'm going to read it. And I wondered why. Well, I kind of know why. But she didn't want me sharing it at the reading I was at. This is called Shirley Temple and a 7-10 split. Shirley Temple is on her stomach, spinning on a stool at 10-pin lanes. Her dad is belly up to the bar next to her. He orders a shot at 10 high and a Budweiser back. He drops the shot in and knocks most of it back in one long swallow, grabs the nearest bar rag to wipe off what's left on his face, and orders Shirley Temple another soda with a cherry, of course. She's only 8. I know this because her parents drop her off at the pool. She's there all day, her skin brown and baked, that annoying kid who's always pestering. I realize I'm sorry for her and start to draw conclusions. The thing is, I spent many a night in bowling alleys, begging my dad's friends for quarters, used to wet my fingers and touch metal screws on 2 side-by-side pinball machines, serving as a conductor, a live wire. I stole change that men threw by empty beer pitchers to play asteroids. I've stuck gum in the holes of more bowling balls than I can count. The sweet smell of oil on rag, the hand-drying machine, while contemplating Mark Ross' extremely unorthodox attempt to pick up the 7-10 split. Hell, who am I kidding? I grew up in alleys, from Des Moines to Omaha to here in this town, with its 6 lanes, where the ball, just like everything else, physically rolls back to you. I do like being in South Dakota. It's not too far from here, which is nice. And one of the things that I've done in these books that I've written is I always like writing down people's bumper stickers because some people don't say a lot, but then they have a lot of bumper stickers. And so I like that. So I'm just going to read a few of them to you because a friend of mine who's a publisher in Omaha, he read this book and a couple weeks ago emailed me and said, "Are people really that stupid up in South Dakota?" And I said, I don't know. So South Dakota bumper stickers, here's one. These are my favorites. "My other 4x4 has legs. That's what she said." That's a great one. "I'd rather be riding her too. If it has tires or tits, it's trouble. If the fetus you save is gay, will you still fight for its rights? If you don't like whiskey, hunting, and strippers, don't come here. If you can't stand behind our troops, feel free to stand in front of them. My horse bucked off your honor roll student. And if you're going to ride my bumper, you better put a saddle on it." I think a couple of those might have been from Nebraska. So there's not a lot of difference between the two places. What I've grown to find out, and I did live not too far from here for about 6 years in a town called Hardington, and this is a little poem about that. This is called "So This Is Nebraska." And this is for a guy in New York, and I'm not kidding you. He asked me, "Nebraska, do you guys still ride around in a horse and buggy there?" Pa said Bobby and me could go fishing down at Snake Creek just as soon as we graft this here calf and finish stacking round bales up in the loft of the barn. And Pa said we could go play with the Indians down the road too, but Ma won't let us. On account a man sits in tree is still fixing to finish skinning a buffalo and make himself a new teepee today. So today, like most days, we'll likely watch them big airplanes blow by overhead. I wish people would just stop every now and again for a visit. I was fixing to go walk up the hill and pick some cherries, but Bobby got a tick up in his britches, stuck to his nutsack. Ma said maybe he was up there doing more than picking cherries and won't let none of us go up the hill no more. Ma predicts the Pony Express is due to arrive this week, and maybe Bobby and I can go sit at the end of the lane and wait for him and his horse. It's really nifty to see him race by and toss Bobby a stack of mail. And sometimes even, there's a Sears Roebuck catalog with girly pictures for us to look at in the outhouse. And maybe, just maybe, we could take the buggy to town and get us some candy and stare at all them city folk with their fancy hats and boots. And maybe, just maybe, we could take on a picture show while Pa does his business around town. Maybe Loretta Swinson, she'll be there in town too. Yes'm, yes'm, I do believe she's true. So pretty soon I'm going to start my 8th year working at the Yankton Federal Prison Camp. When we first started, I think there's 5 of us now. There should be 6, hopefully again this year, throughout the country, and we work at different federal prisons. But we would go into San Quentin and New Folsom. There's a Folsom prison and there's a New Folsom for some of our training to see how arts and corrections works. And so I continue to write about that and my experience, and they tell us we're going back to San Quentin in April, and they've reintroduced the Arts and Corrections program there. In 2010 or 2011 they cut it. They cut a lot of things in the state of California, but now they reintroduced it, and the programs are back up and running, so that's good. There's 2.2 million people. I mean, we're the worldwide leader in incarceration, the United States is. So we have to reevaluate what we want to do here, and I think education is the key to that, making some things happen, positive things. This is a little story. I have some short prose poems or short pieces of prose in this book as well. This is called Ink. This is from my class. 15 out of 22 guys in class are inked. Blue-black brands, their inimitable statements. One of the students' forearms is a mess of calligraphy, and when I lean down to read his arm horizontally, it says life. When he turns his arm upside down, death. Interesting, I say out loud, and it is. Someone put a lot of thought into that. I asked the other students in class to write down their tattoos on a piece of paper and show me if they prefer. One asked, "Do you have a tattoo?" And I put my leg up on the desk and pull up my pant leg, push down my black sock. Gonzo. What does that say, Gonzo? What's that supposed to mean? It means immersing yourself in the story. Instead of writing about someone getting a tattoo, you go get one yourself and then tell everyone how it feels to be marked. Outside the prison, body art is a statement, a mark of authority. Loose lips sink ships, money over bitches, loyalty, born to fail, destined to succeed, death before dishonor, sucker free. On eyelids, on one of the man, there are 2 tattoos that read, game over. In here, as I watch men peel layers of themselves, stripped of freedom, some trying to find redemption, I still question them. Who the hell has the tattoo, fuck the ATF, DEA, US Marshals? And I see X put down his head, his face turns red. He slowly raises his hand, kind of grins. I seen it, another classmate of his says, it's on his back. And immediately I flash back to high school in some cramped apartment, drinking a 40 with God knows who, some Nazi punk with skins, tattooed across his forehead backwards. I tell the class the story, how we all hated the kid, but didn't know what to do. They laugh, cuss under their breath, shake their heads. X is deadpan, looking out the iron window. So there's more of that. some of those stories in here. I've got about 10 minutes here. I want to try to make you laugh. And I know Thanksgiving's coming, so in case I forget to tell you later, Happy Thanksgiving. And I like reading this poem just because I hear my cousin in it, and he appears very early here. This is called Brusque Man. It always seems to occur over the carving of the turkey, that awkward holiday moment, the man and his knife, too many beers, too soon in the afternoon. Say, you a brusque man, ain't you? I've never asked anyone if they're a brusque man. White or dark, sure, I'll eat either meat, especially the thighs. But back to breasts, celebrating them. I do wish to pay tribute like so many of my fellows, but to be honest with you, I'm not a brusque man, and I'll tell you why. More than a handful Denise Hillside was in 8th grade. The couple skate was odd. Denise, at least a foot taller than me, 1.5 foot with her roller skates on. Knockers, that's what Charlie Ferguson called them, the size of my shoulders and biceps. It's one thing to look up to the woman you adore, but to maneuver through those obstacles, my face suffocating in her chest, all that intimidation, you understand? After losing myself a few too many times, I looked for a companion more my size. A woman friend of mine, who is not a breast person, insisted one night that we go to a strip club. Now, we're practically there already, she slurred, sitting on a downtown bench. And who was I or the other couple to disagree? After watching a few pole dances, she exclaimed, "All these women have fake boobs. None of those are real." And another woman in the audience smiled. They seemed to have a mutual understanding. A sisterhood, not a traveling pants, but a boobs. We all finished our drinks and walked away feeling larger and strangely more buoyant than we did when we arrived. I didn't think I'd ever read that out loud, but it is close to Thanksgiving, so. Here's one other one from the prison camp. This is called Sunshine. I guess I'll read one more. This is called Sunshine, Handcuffs, Plexiglass Scars. See these flowers, the student says, they're closed at night, and in the morning they open, stay open most of the day. I don't know what they're called, but I get to see them open and close. I had these same flowers by my front steps. The stems feel plastic, almost fake. They break easily. We aren't supposed to touch them here. You know, one of the prisons they had me at, I could step into a corner of my cell and get a sliver of sunlight. It would hit me right here. He cranes his neck and closes his eyes. Right here on my face for about half an hour. That was the only sunlight I'd see. It's mental deprivation, and it works. Hell, most guards don't know what you're in for. They don't care. We were loaded on a 747 one winter, and we were standing on the tarmac without any jackets, a bunch of us. Just a t-shirt and orange pants, no socks, no shoes. They had our legs chained at the ankles so tight I was bleeding all over my feet. Scars are still here. He puts his leg onto a bench and pulls down his sock to show me. You know, I'm no killer or sicko. My whole stint that got me here lasted only 5 months. That's how long it took me to hit bottom. Hanging out with some terrible people I thought were my friends, and I backslid down the whole way. Meth will eat you up. 15 years. I'll be down for an addiction I couldn't shake. When my daughter used to come visit me, I'd be behind those glass partitions. She'd tell me, "Daddy, roll this window down." I'd say, "I can't." She'd ask, "When are you coming home?" Soon, I'd tell her. Now she wants to know the date. She'll be graduated by then. All right. I got a couple more here. 3 more. So some of my friends asked me about my daughters. My daughters are 6 and 10, going on 7 and 17, it seems like. So now I tell them if they do something I don't like, I'm going to put it in a book. So that's working so far. The last couple of weeks it has been. This is called Wishing Well. Each one of us makes a myth of the soul we imagine ours, so mythic will never vanish. This morning in the hallway, I find a note on the floor. I hope my mom and dad don't die forever. My daughter does this sometimes, leaves notes. She tries to ignore me as I hold the letter in my hand and asks, "What's this?" She turns her back and acts disgusted. I don't push the issue, but all day I approach the note in my head from different angles. Is she scared? Has she been watching too much TV? How do I tell a 6-year-old that we all die someday? Later, after exhausting myself with the right things to say, I think soon enough, she'll want me dead. Not seriously gone for good, just out of the picture. When she's a teenager, all that freedom she'll be aching for. Like the other day, she screams at me, "Dad, I can get out of the car by myself. Thanks for the ride." And she's out of the car, running down the small hill into school, her enormous pink backpack smacking at the backs of her calves. A friend of mine told me, "You can't be friends with your kids." And I know what he means. We can't just be friends. That'll come down the road when they are gone to train the orcas and wrestle with the other predators of the sea. I also know I'll never stop being their father. As I get older, I'll still need them to ask me for advice, like, "What the hell is a basin wrench for?" Or "Why do you care about that so much?" I realize our relationship will continue to evolve, like mine with my father and mother. How we occasionally butt heads. Now parenthood is becoming a bit more clear. So when this book came out, I write sometimes about my mother-in-law because I can, but I did have to. I'll read 2 poems about her. I'll stop after that. I had to remind her that this book was coming out, and there was a poem that there were 2 words that appeared in the same poem. One was mother-in-law, and the other word you'll see. And she said, "That's fine." She said, "If I didn't do crazy stuff, you wouldn't have anything to write about," which is kind of true. It's true. This is called The Blues in Jeans. When I found the sewing needle in the crotch of my newly hemmed jeans, I was troubled. Not for the nutsack that had gone unharmed, but for my overall well-being. My mother-in-law, who had done the sewing, perhaps forgetful, perhaps not. An instinctive shriveling in the unhemmed crotch rendered my jeans somewhat roomier than I remembered. It's always good to have a good sport. So I'll end with this, because this is one thing I do miss about Nebraska and being in that town. This is called Keeper of All Things Whole and Necessary. Puts leftover food in little plastic baby food containers and yogurt cups she has hoarded. Will leave half a chicken wing for someone else to eat. Wraps up and refrigerates 1 slice of bacon. Puts lemon juice on half an apple so it won't turn brown. She washes and pack rats, straws with holes and plastic silverware with broken tines. She has a drawer full of mustard, barbecue, and soy sauce packages from takeout restaurants from out of town. She has personalized greeting cards that she will white out and reuse. She cuts coupons, sometimes expired, cuts up and collects newspaper articles if she knows someone in the article or knows someone who knows the person in the article. She gives me play-by-plays of garage sales and auctions, saves for scraps for stray cats and bones for the dog. She saves for Jesus and saves for you. She picks green tomatoes before that first winter freeze, wraps them in tissue paper and serves them for Thanksgiving dinner. She balances soap dispensers upside down like others do with ketchup bottles and eventually combines them in one. She has a room full of old jeans in case her husband's overalls need patching or her son-in-law's crotch blows out. Makes pie crust from hog lard, the only way to make pie crust. Has full canning jars from the 80s. Has unidentifiable things older than dirt in her deep freeze. Once, I saw her pull a tarp for a pickup bed out from underneath her dresser. I've been holding on to this I don't know how long. If you need something, a blowtorch, nunchucks, twist ties, marbles, propane, a chandelier, suspenders, goat cheese, a curtain rod, spare tire, basin wrench, bell bottoms, bowling ball, anything. She's your woman. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jim. All right, the second reader. Neil Harrison has worked as a yardman and a night shootman at the then world's largest livestock auction, as a feedlot worker, construction worker, house painter, machine gunner in the 325th Airborne Infantry, casket bearer in Arlington National Cemetery as a member of the 3rd U.S. Infantry, farm and ranch hand, block layers assistant, gas station attendant, plumber's assistant, masonry crew worker, postal clerk, and English instructor, with various episodes of schooling scattered throughout. Among his most memorable experiences was a one-day excursion as a carpet cleaner, negotiating rush hour traffic in Omaha in a hot pink minivan with the company's proud logo, Tickled Pink, in large black cursive on either side. His poetry collections are Story, Logan House, 1995 and 1996, and A River of Wind, Bridge Burners, 2000, Into the River Canyon at Dusk, Lone Willow, 2005, and Back in the Animal Kingdom, Pinion Publishing, 2011. His stories and poems have appeared in various journals and anthologies. In 2013, he retired from Northeast Community College, sidebar, is missed very, very much, where he taught English and creative writing and coordinated the Visting Writers Series. Please help me welcome Neil Harrison.
Well, thank you, Bonnie, and thanks for inviting me and Jim to read together. As Jim said, he was once a student of mine, so was Bonnie. A number of my instructors are here today, Barbara and Bob Schmitz. A lot of colleagues, Eddie and Lynn, and Louise, Christy, Janelle, Kathy, let's see, Maureen. It's good to see you all here. I'm glad you came out in the cold, even if it was cold. Thanks for coming. I'll start with an early poem. My brother and I used to walk out to a railroad trestle south of town. You know where Volcraft is? If you follow the tracks south of Volcraft, there's a bridge out there. And we used to either walk out of town or we'd have Mom drive us out to the North Airport Road and drop us off, and then we'd follow the tracks back to that trestle. And we were pretty young. I don't know why she let us get away with it, like 11 and 13. But we'd spend the whole night out there, and my brother'd always rip off some cigarettes or cigars or something to smoke. And I was pretty young to be smoking that stuff, so I got a little almost hallucinogenic, as I recall. You never know what you're going to see. Pterodactyls. After sundown on the railroad bridge, I break open the pack of cigars my brother ripped off that afternoon, and thank my lucky stars I was there when he came out the back of Raleigh's, reached down the front of his pants and pulled them out, grinning till he found them filtered, tipped, then scowling, cursing. God damn the luck, he threw the new pack of Omegas down the alley and went back and stole some King Edwards. So I'm smoking a bona fide pack of my own, sitting on a pier on the old black bridge, my bait caster propped across my knees, the unfiltered stink of Catfish Charlie rising with the Omega to my lips each time I puffed to keep the bugs away. When all at once, overhead in the dark, something squawks and my skin shrivels from the groin on up. A fresh cigar drops off my lip, pack of matches slips out of my hand, and I'm staring up 10 feet above at a pair of, God Almighty, giant wing beats pushing pulling prehistoric silhouettes across the sky, long beaked necks coiled up like snakes, dark bone legs thrust back like spears. They sweep slow motion over the bridge, out of sight. I squat, wondering if it's some bad dream, till another godless squawk in the dark, and I'm gone, across the bridge to the pier my brother's fishing. Hey, I call, and the orange glow of a lit cigar arcs around to face me. Hey, my brother answers. What's up? He asks. I'm out of matches. He gets up slow, hands me his lighter. How are them filtered sons of bitches? I shake one out, light up and cough. Not bad. Bullshit, he says, takes back his lighter. You see them herons a minute ago? Herons, I echo. Them too, you mean? His glowing King Edward rises and falls. My breath comes easy all at once. Sure, I saw 'em, noisy bastards. I flick off an ash, saunter back to my pier, and suck on that warm Omega. My uncle had a ranch in the Sandhills. My cousin runs it now. But back when we were kids, we used to run wild out there, playing the blowouts, catching lizards, going through piles of junk my uncle dumped out there. Old cars he had parked out back and stuff, and we'd get in and play like we were driving and stuff. Riding his horses, my cousin's horses, my uncle's calves. And then when we got old enough, my uncle caught up with us and put us to work in the hayfield, which was okay because we weren't driving yet then, and that's where we learned to drive on these old Ford tractors of my uncle's. This poem is called Before We Fell. Before we fell to work, my uncle soaked the burlap jackets wired around our jugs of water, put them in the shade under the dash of his pickup, and with 4 or 5 gallon cans of gas and a full grease gun in the back, drove south down the long lane, west over the White Rock Road, turned north onto a sand trail, and we bounced over the sweet grass of his hayfield in the heart of the sandhills, up to an old Ford tractor and a dump rake, where the hay lay curled in ragged mounds, and meadowlarks stood greeting us with song. Well, we're only midway through autumn, even though it sure looks like winter right now. I haven't yet heard the geese going over. Anybody heard them yet? With this weather, they got to be moving with this cold weather. This poem is called Autumn. Blackbirds flock to brittle fields where I lose myself each day at dusk, waiting for something I can't explain until it happens late one evening. The air, clear and raw as metal, rings like a distant bell as I search the sky for particle or wave and name them both in a whisper, geese. Imagine what that lead bird feels, drawing her beat by beat into that nothing we call the night. Listen to her, the point of it all, aiming that long noise south, echoing the call she follows, a voice we've lost the sense to hear. See them coming under the full moon, soundless blue shadows skating the river ice, puzzling out the riddled channels of the Platte, or another of those winding dreams that take them home. As I said, I have a lot of people here that I know. One of them's not here. Larry Hond was my first creative writing teacher for about a week till he broke his shoulder playing softball, and Barbara Schmitz took over the class. But I took creative writing out here, so those of you who are in the creative writing classes, there's a long history out there. Larry and I got to be really good friends. We canoed the Elkhorn together. We used to backpack into the Wind River Mountains out in northwest Wyoming. Larry died in a car wreck in 1999, and he gets sick every time we'd go up into the mountains. We went pretty high, and he called it altitude sickness. I would get headaches too because the air is a lot thinner, and you got to keep drinking and you keep yourself hydrated, or you'll you get headaches and things. But Larry got really sick, and it occurred to me after he finally saw a doctor and had a valve replaced in his heart. He'd had a rheumatic fever as a child and scarred his valve in his heart. And I ain't so sure he didn't know about it, but he was still pushing his luck and leaving me to deal with it if anything went wrong, I guess. Good idea. Get out there and do it. This poem is for Larry Holland and for all of you. We're all involved in this. Conjuring fire. Imagine the short-lived hiss of a match, hint of sulfur, sudden scent of burning pine. Your small flame catches the dry needles and twigs inside a ring of stones you set against a great slab of boulder in the strange twilight afternoon under the shadow of a sheer rock wall rising 700 feet out of this narrow meadow, the deepest canyon in the Wind River Range. Your friend lifts a stick from the fire to his pipe. He conjures smoke, leans forward, sighs, tries to forget the weight of his pack, the scars on his heart, how close he will come to death in the morning on those godless switchbacks up the Palmer Lake Trail. In some deep place, you both know this is the last time he will make that climb, share this camp with you. Rank with the scent of your own cold sweat, you dream a deliberate walk through hell, seeking a God who gives a damn. You find nothing, no one there but you, not even the goddamn devil. Imagine the sudden sweet scent of pipe smoke, your friend grinning as he pisses out the fire, reminding you what you both came here to learn. Conjurers like you lose nothing ever. As I said earlier, my brother and I started fishing and hunting at a pretty young age, like 11 and 13. I was 11, he was 13. And we spent our lives right up until the year he died, I guess, hunting together. This is for him. A feeling at dusk for Joel. Some October evenings you can almost feel, as the animals do, color bleeding from the stubble fields, the fence rows, from the trees along the river, and you blink it away, this odyssey of light drawing you as the animals are drawn into the ebb flow of its tide, where one by one they drown at last in the deep miles of the night. How many times have I been born to this, the end of a day in a life spent hunting? Who any longer will believe this solemn narrative of love, the everlasting warm release of sacrificial blood and tears? We watched light fade from our Father's eyes, a dusk wherein we found ourselves and the lives we'd lead thereafter, deep in a paradox, love for the hunt and sorrow for the fated killed. We were 5 and 8 when he died. My clearest memory, a shotgun propped in a corner under a dim porch light. A metallic odor, spent powder, wet feathers, a brace of mallards on a bottom step, slow blood leaking from their bills. The track led north to the river. Take off your boots now, and your socks, your pants, and hang them round your neck. We'll cross the ice until it breaks, then wade the waist-deep current, thaw our frigid feet and shriveled sex at the fire on the other side. There is always the ripe scent of autumn, a burning inside I can't explain. Always the prayer, failure or forgiveness, and the knowledge that no approach to God remains for me apart from this. I will hunt you in the morning and in the evening, in the garden and east of the garden, and will not stop until you hear me. Thank you once again for the life I take each time I kill you. I think some of you have this book, possibly. Is this the one we're using? So we'll move into this book. These are a couple of early ones. I thought that last poem would be a good introduction for some of these. The second section of this book has the same title as the book, Back in the Animal Kingdom. And one of the classes I taught when I was teaching here was comparative mythology. Barbara taught it before me. When I was teaching it the last few semesters, I was using a book by Joseph Campbell, who is known as a master of mythologies. And I was using this book, Transformations of Myth Through Time. Chapter 1 was called In the Beginning, Origins of Man and Myth. And this is a quotation from Joseph Campbell out of that book. It is as though there were a covenant between the animal and the human communities, honoring the mystery of nature, which is life lives by killing, no other way. And it is the one life in two manifestations that is living this way, by killing and eating itself. I live half a block from Highway 81 and a block away from the light on Paswalk there. And I used to work, as Bonnie mentioned in the introduction, at Norfolk Livestock out here, which advertised itself as the world's largest livestock auction back then. And I'm reminded of that every time one of the pots driving through town, one of the big semis driving through town, gears down for the light on Paswalk, because you can hear the shuffle of the animals and hear their sounds. Back in the animal kingdom, half a block east of the highway, bisecting a Nebraska college town midway along its reach from Manitoba south down the continent to Mexico, he reviews the essays he's assigned concerning issues in the humanities, as the background din of traffic fades like the buzz of late summer cicadas, and only the occasional odd sound registers: a siren rousting the neighborhood dogs, a metallic crunch at the intersection cutting short a loud screech of tires, a chorus of bellows or squeals that accompanies the clatter of hooves on aluminum as another big rig gears down at the light and the packed tight stock inside packs tighter, sliding together on the shit-slick floors of a trailer headed for the packing plant. And his sense of the words on the page is lost as he recalls those days he worked the sales and the midnight shoots at what was once billed the world's largest livestock auction, his schooling in the workforce ways of the world long before he took an academic turn. He pictures again the cane he used, the hardwood reinforced with plastic pipe to ward off splitting and give the proper heft. And he recalls the weapon-like feel of it, how he drove those milling herds and stopped the odd ones that tried to break away. And the years of his subsequent education pale like a cut and dried rose, as once again he's brought to face the requisite cruelty that feeds us all. Our dark root buried out of sight and mind under tons of slick plastic techno shit. And he finds the bright promises of civilization doomed as that plaintive cacophony inside each pot gearing down for light, like an old tune striking up memories of who he was and what he is and where, back in the animal kingdom. The sacrament. In the Lutheran Church, we were taught when Christ died on the cross, it is finished, his final words, that was it. And the sacrament, the body and blood of Christ. We live off of the things we eat, and it's either plants or animals. It was alive or it won't keep you alive. It's never finished. Blessed sacrament. On a rock outcropping in a fossil bed, 4 antelope drowse in the autumn sun until a bullet thumps like the fist of God into the paunch of the male, and he grunts. A distant rifle pops, and the startled does burst all at once away to the south. The buck, too shocked at first to rise, comes up at the crunch of approaching boots, leaps from the rock and lunges west, a 1/4 mile to the lip of a drop where his shoulders buckle and he rolls, but rises, clears a creek, emerges, slower now, his body humped, the deep cramp tightening with every breath. He stops at length on a ridge to rest, turns and slowly eases down, sees the man a 1/2 mile back drop out of sight in a wash in the dusk. 20 minutes later, a silent flash, and the other fist of God thumps home. The buck's erect neck slumps to the side, and what he was is gone, leaving body and blood to feed his brother, kneeling with a knife at the earthen altar. In this, the first dark place of worship, where every breathing thing still ends, a broken, bleeding Christ. Every keening mother, Mary, burying her child of God. It is never finished. I've had 3 Drahthaars, German wire-haired pointers, and this poem was written for the second one, but it applies to them all. There was Gypsy, Smoky, and now I've got Happy. If someone asks me why I hunt, I can read these poems. I don't know if that gives you any feel for it, or I can simply answer because, and that's the title of this poem. Because each autumn she runs the yucca-clustered hills, this ancient grassland full of prickly pear and prairie rose, ranging ahead, casting left and right, reveling in the scents as meadowlarks and mourning doves lift up and out of reach, Deer and coyotes slip away unseen, and jackrabbits challenge her to open country races. We all three know she can't win, but know too she has to follow, because out here, away from the common chaos of the streets in the city where we live, she can hear again a voice within calling her back to her birthright. The uncluttered wild, where everything is a simple coupling, predator and prey. Every scent a call to grace, follow me. And nose down, tail a quiver, without question she obeys, because this way is narrow, and she knows it leads to the Holy of Holies, the eternal present, where she locks on point, silent, motionless, eye to eye, pointer and sharp tail, a single being, lost in timeless meditation before the inevitable sacrifice. A grouse bursts skyward, my dog leaps after, and I wake from this trance and raise the gun because. See what time we've got here. I'll see if we've got time for, I've got a newer poem. I'll see if we have time for it. I'll see how long this one takes. I'll take you back to that trestle where my brother and I we would fish all night, him on one pier and me on the other. This is later. This is my second car I've got, and this is with my cousin. And the river was flooding. The Elkhorn used to flood every year around here. And we found out what it could do here a few years ago when it does flood. Actually, that bridge washed out. Luckily, we weren't standing on it at the time, I guess. A spring day. This is for my cousin, for Leon. I touch the scar this autumn evening and feel it all flood back again. That spring day, and you, my friend, dead these many years. After a week of hard rains, we stood on the trestle south of town, saw rafts of snags, whole cottonwoods surfing the crest of the swollen river. The current cut deep into the north bank and washed back against the rock rail bed as far as Gerhold's gravel pit. And all along that stretch of ditch, the muddy water boiled with V's, giant tails and gray-green backs, some dozen buffaloes up from the river spawning in the flooded grass. We rushed to the car and into town, found your father's spear, my fishing bow, then back out. We stalked to the water, doffed our shoes, and went at them, each taking one of the biggest fish, then chasing the others as they ripped away down the murky shallows and out into the foaming Elkhorn. Something quick and sharp underfoot as we hurried them to the river, and there saw the gash, the spurting blood, my red tracks painted on the sand. We closed the cut with tape off the bow reel and laughed at my sudden limp as I carried the bow and spear while you hauled those two great fish to the car. And still riding that wild rush, we roared back to town in my GTO, windows down, stereo blaring, speakers throbbing out, spirit in the sky. I've got one poem that isn't in these books. It's a little more recent, and it's about a time quite a while ago when I got out of the Army. These guys were short one man on their canoe expedition, and asked me if I wanted to go along. And in the Army, you learn not to volunteer, but I shrugged, and that was good. And And it's got a strange name, but this is, I swear, how he said it. Chicken oodle. Chicken oodle. For Roger Kepke, 1950, 1987. Roger died pretty young. Now you and our old soup stop are both long gone, but when I find myself near Thedford, I remember. In the late 70s, you were one man short, and just out of the army, with a shrug, I became a part of that crew, already loading 2 conversion vans with those necessities for a float trip down the Dismal. A dozen coolers, each stocked full of ice and somebody's favorite brew. A bottle or 2 of cheap wine, mellow days or easy nights. A meager nod toward edibles, that wilderness staple, hot dogs, maybe some Polish sausages, bacon and a dozen eggs. A cardboard box with utensils, buns and bags of chips. Behind one van, a trailer with 4 canoes and river gear. 8 of us heading west. Big speakers blaring, cassette players unreeling the miles to, see how many of you guys remember these. Lukenbach, Texas. Okie from Muskogee. How about this one? Up against the wall, redneck mother. Each tune carrying our caravan closer to that gas stop east of Thedford, where the lead driver, always Roger, would holler into his CB mic, "Chicken oodle!" Don't forget, reminding the other driver to stop at that sacred shrine, the coin-op soup machine, where one truly memorable Memorial weekend, that salty, steaming liquid saved us after 3 days and 2 long nights of rain, tents and sleeping bags all soaked through, temps somewhere low down in the 40s, our wet hands as numb on the paddles as our sodden butts on those aluminum seats. Some thoughtful soul's precious pint of brandy all too soon sucked way too dry. Nothing left but icy beers for solace as we paddled, waded, and towed our canoes east to the Highway 83 bridge. And the frigid ordeal over at last, we headed for the gas and grocery east of town, where you found that ready-mix soup machine, and ever afterward, on our approach to Thedford, a loud, clear voice reminded us, "Chicken oodle! Don't forget." Thank you. I don't know if you have any questions for Jim or I. We'll try to answer them.
The first time I started teaching at the prison camp, I had prepared for about 3 months, and I walked in, and the first day a guy said to me, "What's the difference between poetry and prose?" So I realized everything that I had prepared I just had to throw out the window. So I teach writing, and then I just try to, you have a variety of different people. The only requirement for my class, there is no test, there's no homework, is that you have to have a GED. So as long as they have that, and so we kind of start wherever. There's a great book, speaking of poetry though, and that's what I like to teach, but I teach a lot of short prose and anything and everything. But there's a good book called Poetry to Save Your Life by Maria Mazziotti Gillen that came out a couple years ago. And there's about 200 pages of writing prompts in there. That's all they are. 80 pages of craft and then 200 pages of prompts. So that's my go-to book after I exhaust my syllabus after about 10 months. So, and we just start, and then after 10 months we publish a book which is called 4 p.m. Count, and that's free to anybody who wants it. We don't sell it, and it's pretty amazing to see what happens at the beginning and on the final product. So I hope that answers it a little bit. So if you're interested in the book, you can. The new one will be coming out in December, and just go to jimreese.org, and there's a sign-up sheet. You just put your address in there, and then they ship it from the prison.
This is at the prison in
Yeah, Federal Prison Camp Yankton.
I noticed that there's your erotic and your many of your poems are fun and enjoyable, of course. But I'm wondering, in the process of writing them, is that kind of motive kind of in the back of your effort to make your poems funny and enjoyable and presentable and so that?
Yeah, I want to. I mean, I think that was what got me intrigued and wanted me how I wanted to write right away. I mean, that's what interested me. I mean, I was a criminal justice major when I was a freshman in college, and that lasted for a semester or two. And I realized, I like to write songs. I was in a band with 5 other guys, so it kind of evolved from there. But I do like to make people laugh. I think that's but the tragedy is always in the good humor, for me anyway. So I try to put that mix together. So it's, 2 of my favorite poets, probably, Billy Collins, obviously, and then George Bill Gear. He was here a couple years ago. So, and if you can mix those two with poetry or prose, I think that's very important. I mean, at the end of the day, right? I don't wake up and say, geez, I don't fall out of bed and go, boy, I really want to be serious today. I'm tired of being serious. Life's too short. So I'm hoping the humor works,
It does.
Do you have a favorite poem in your new book?
Neil?
You.
What was that?
Do you have a favorite poem in your book?
And yeah, I'll read this. And I didn't. Yeah, I have a lot. But I'm trying to think, of what I think. I like the fun stuff. That's what I tried to do with this book. I didn't want to put any prison stuff in it or any serious stuff, but it just happens, and they keep creeping up on me. All right, this one's called Thunder and Lightning. It's tourney time, and my daughter Willow has just scored her 2nd run this season. The innings mercy rule follows. Team Thunder hits the field as I strap the catcher's gear on to one of the unlucky players. She's already drenched. It's 90 degrees, muggy as all get out. My wife is in the stands, making faces at me, which is always a good sign. And our other daughter, Paige, is chasing ground squirrels with the other kids too young to play. I'm helping coach and keep score with 2 other fathers as the girls open up their first can of whoop-ass against the opposing team. We fetching or catching here, girls, the 8-year-old third baseman hollers. And 1, 2, 3, we are back to the top of our lineup, and the chatter begins. Can you turn like Michael Jackson, break it down like Britney Spears, shake it off like salt and pepper? No, you can't. With cheeks full of sunflower seeds, these girls are starting to gel. How beautiful it is to see them come together as a team, discovering the beauty of the game before it's ruined by adults. And tonight, after ice cream, I water the red maple, the first tree we planted. The girls run and chase fireflies. When they catch one, they can't help but hold it hostage and pull its wings. I just can't stand to see it suffer, Willow says. She grabs the hose and begins drowning the thing. And soon enough, they are off for a new adventure. As I watch my new, as seen on TV, pocket hose ravel itself into a ball, I catch a glimpse of what's left of the firefly, its cold light smeared on the cement. And I hear, on this particularly quiet night, the flurry of small wings ascending. So yeah, I thought that was funny when I heard the little girl say, "We fetching or catching here, girls?" So that voice is always, I suppose, humor and voice. I learned that from Neil right away, and J.V. Brells, and Eddie, all these guys. You guys have a really rich history of writing right here at Northeast. So with Bonnie, she's been, that's great that she's teaching, and so take advantage of it. Thanks for coming out, you guys.
They'll sign books over here, and they're probably selling some as well. Thank you all for coming.